Very good morning, welcome along to Friday morning's OTB AM. It's the 26th of May and we're with you until 10 o'clock as per usual this morning. OTB AM with Gillette Labs, get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. It doesn't feel like Friday because Adrian Barry is no longer beside me, but we have a stacked studio, let me tell you something. Cork's Colin Boohy, good morning.
Morning, Shane.
Oh my God.
Mayo's Cameron Hill. Good morning, Mayo. Good morning, Mayo Cameron.
Yeah, thanks a mil. Great.
And Galway's Johnny Ward.
Morning, Shane.
How are things? How are you keeping, lads?
Country well represented here, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of a
real spread.
Well, it's very, I was going to say it's very west. There's two lads in the west.
No Leinster representation. But
No.
I think, given the events last weekend, maybe they didn't want to come on.
It's for the better. We had to separate the Galway and Mayo lads across the room as well. We couldn't put them beside each other.
we went to the league final together, so
okay.
we had
And we both don't like Roscommon, so the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
yeah.
The day. So you
How it
know,
works in Connacht.
Depends
Well,
on
everyone
what-
hates Mayo, don't they?
Depends on what part of in Galway. Kind of depends on whether you're near the Galway or the Roscommon border. I've always generally if Mayo win All Ireland, I want them to win because I think
Right.
I think Mayo people are sound. Yeah.
If Mayo are playing All Ireland, you want them to win?
See, I grew up with Galway winning a couple of All Ireland, so you wouldn't begrudge them that sort of way.
Backhanded compliment there.
No, but do you know what I mean? It's not like Mayo, like the success of Connacht teams in the All Ireland series is appallingly bad. Like no team other than Galway has won the All Ireland since Mayo in 51, was it?
yeah.
Like that's incredibly bad. We've at the moment we've three of the best teams in the National League. Like we'd first, second, and third in the National League.
Yeah.
Galway and Mayo are definitely All Ireland contenders. But like Mayo, I mean Mayo people, in fairness, they're a bit mad. Like because when you want something for so long, it's like chasing somebody and thinking that it's going to happen and still thinking that it's going to happen, and then thinking that it's going to happen and then thinking it's going to happen. But Mayo people, like, football is like, it's a bit like Monaghan, obsession to an extent, like similar enough populations, punch above their weight, but just haven't won.
Monaghan and Roscommon or Monaghan?
Mayo.
And we have a much smaller population than Mayo.
Roscommon and Monaghan have a similar population.
Of course.
Mayo have a bigger population, but they haven't won it. And I generally would like them to win All Ireland because just so they can get it over with at this stage, because it's been hard going to the well so often. But most people in Galway might disagree.
Right, fair. That's fair. Loads still happening in the world of sport. Eddie Dunbar still turning up in the Giro d'Italia. The Celtics beat the Heat last night to take the series to a Game 6 at least in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 6 will be Saturday night in Miami, so that's for the right to play the Denver Nuggets in the championship game. But lads, Old Trafford last night, I suppose. Manchester United 4, Chelsea 1. Champions League football secured for Manchester United for next season. Means Liverpool will not be in the Champions League next season.
Mo Salah wasn't happy.
No, he put up
That was an interesting
statement on his social media accounts, didn't he?
What do we read into that?
I think he wants to take a leadership role.
Yeah.
Because he's committed to Liverpool last summer, signed a big long-term contract. Shane was you were cynically suggesting that his agent suggested to him, Mo, poaching full time here, United are going to win.
So for people who haven't seen it, I mean, it's a photo of the back of Salah's jersey, him during a match, looking a bit sad, and he's put the filter on it for grey. So he's
morning, the last of Champions League football.
Morning onto it. He said, "I'm totally devastated. There's absolutely no excuse for this. We had everything we needed to make it to next year's Champions League, and we failed. We are Liverpool, and qualifying to the competition is the bare minimum. I'm sorry, but it's too soon for an uplifting or optimistic post. We let you and ourselves down." That was at 10:07 p.m. last night, so just after action had finished at Old Trafford.
It only took him an entire season to take the initiative there. Good for him.
The Opta-Joe stat, best minutes per goal or assist rates among Premier League players this season in all competitions. 65 Erling Haaland, 93 Salah, 97 Evan Ferguson. I was actually surprised that Salah has been involved in a goal or assist only once every 93 minutes, and that.
You want us to talk about Evan Ferguson? Is that what you're saying here?
This is
no. We leave Ferguson out of this, but 90. He had a kind of a patchy season till as well. His pace is just slightly gone as well. Maybe he feels himself that like he didn't have his best season for sure. But it was an interesting. I don't know if he's a serial tweeter, but there was a lot packed into that tweet.
A lot going on.
Definitely felt strategic. Actually, Salah's a bit like Harry Kane this season in that they've both been excellent individually.
Yeah,
statistically.
a lot of goals.
and the teams have underperformed massively. I really enjoyed last night's game again, a bit like Brighton Man City the night before.
Yeah, well, Brighton Man City was a better game, wasn't it?
Quality 100%. Someone tweeted last night that it was the worst quality end-to-end game they've ever seen. But there was so many chances, and I was saying beforehand, Frank Lampard said all season long, we're creating chances, we're just not finishing them, we're not clinical enough. And to be fair, he had a point last night in the first half. Mudryk missed the sitter after less than 3 minutes.
Havertz missed one as well.
Havertz missed the header, and Conor Gallagher, right in the stroke of half time,
across the goal,
pulled his shot wide. When
you're the manager though, people are missing chances partly because you're the manager, because there's a collective lack of belief. Absolutely, bringing in a new manager,
missing a chance is down to a manager.
It's not. It's part of the whole thing. Look at the confidence. The
finishing is a skill. There's almost this idea that we created loads of chances, so we're actually okay. Well, did you score them?
Look at the body language of Havertz and Mudryk. You can almost see they're not going to score when they're in front. Really good chances, you mentioned the first half. Bringing in Lampard was one of the most stupid things you could ever do in management. It made no sense, and now it's spectacularly backfired. I wouldn't have thought it would have gone this bad. But
he's lost 8 of his 10 games.
But for Tuchel, they'd be relegated practically. Do you know what I mean? They're 3 points. If Forest win their last game, they're 3 points above Forest. And Chelsea lose. It's incredibly bad.
Forest is one of the 2 sides that he didn't lose against. That was a draw. 2-2 at home, Stamford Bridge. And the other one, does anyone remember it? A few weeks ago, 3-1 away to Bournemouth.
Right.
Which I think Bournemouth took the lead in that, or they equalised at the very least. But Johnny makes a good point. When they brought in Frank Lampard, presumably it was for a bounce club legend. He did okay the first time around at the start of his 10 years. So it's maybe we'll get a bit of that. He's been away a bit.
The club legend thing is absolutely irrelevant.
But it was what was the point of losing Graham Potter for this? Because I don't think Potter was ever going to go on an 8 out of 10 game losing streak. So they're 12th in the league. It's by far, Sky Sports threw up a graphic last night, it's by far the fewest number of Premier League goals they've scored in the tournament's history. It's been a disaster, and considering all the talent that they have in abundance in that squad. Afterwards, Lampard had a very honest interview as it was sold on Sky Sports social media feeds, 5.5 minutes with Patrick Davison, and before I watched it I was thinking I have a fair idea of what he's going to say here, and seriously. It was bang on for 5.5 minutes. He's so conscious of doing that now that he's
does Frank Lampard have a magic wand where he can solve all this?
Well, he was because he did make that point that they did once again create a load of chances and they're not finishing them.
Did 60% possession in the game.
60%.
That's it. I did see a friend of the show, Yasmin Baba, having a great laugh and putting up the statistics, saying this is the most Chelsea of Frank Lampard Chelsea games ever in terms of stats. They had 62% possession. Their expected goals was 1.34. And they didn't score, and United's was 0.25.
Well, he was on about in that post-match interview saying people are on to me with playing a back 5 and they criticise me for that, but I can play a back 5, a back 4, a midfield 3, a front 2. It doesn't matter if the players aren't committed. And then he went back to the players in the middle section of the interview saying the commitment's just not there in training, the application isn't, and there's only so much I can do as a result of that.
In other words, I'm not capable of doing anything.
Yeah, surely that is definitely something you can control, is their commitment.
That's literally your job.
What's the future for Lampard? Is he managing next season anywhere?
Surely
Does
not.
anyone want him?
Well, not obviously
at any level.
League. Not in the Premier League.
There are a lot of idiots out there though. This was a stupid appointment, and if Chelsea are that stupid, there have to be a lot of other stupid clubs.
Do you all reckon that he actually is a useless manager, or is there something in him at all?
I think if he wasn't Frank Lampard, he wouldn't be getting any of these jobs.
Same with Gerrard. Gerrard, look at Gerrard at Villa this season. Appalling record until they changed the manager. Emery comes in and they've been
won the
amazing.
Scottish Premiership.
Well, with Everton, he did keep them up last season when they were in trouble of going down.
He did.
With Derby, he got them to a playoff final. Now, I've said that before, and I've had loads of people saying that Derby squad was incredibly talented, and the very least they should have got was a playoff final.
You have to give the manager some credit, though.
And at Chelsea at the start, he was okay. He did okay for a while at Chelsea, and then it all went wrong. So if you look at his record coldly, and take away the reputation of Lampard, he's not totally terrible, right?
I'd like to see him as a scout. I'd like to see him as a scout, because the line he always puts out is clearly these players aren't good enough, and the players I've been saddled with, like the Germans.
Yeah, go find the players then.
The Germans TM that he would always refer to in his first stint at Chelsea. So maybe he could unearth some other gems like Mason Mount. Maybe that's his thing, that he actually knows where all the good players are. He's just kind of keeping it close to his chest.
Yeah, It's hard to know because he was a pretty instinctive player. Like that was his whole thing, was arriving into the box late. He wasn't a midfielder who would control the game.
Yeah.
Like John Giles said that about him plenty of times over the years, and funny enough said the same thing about Gerrard, that they weren't typical midfield players in the way he would consider a central midfield player to be. But Lampard was incredibly effective.
Yeah,
Both of
arriving
them
late in
look
the box.
busted flushes as managers really already, like at this stage. Like,
But that's what I mean, that their playing style correlates with their management style, which is like you're relying on inspiration and you can't control it because you're on the sideline. So where does that leave you?
A lot of people in the comments having their say on Lampard as well. Brian says Lampard took a job nobody else would take. In fairness, the Mudryk transfer will go down as one of the worst big money moves ever. The players aren't fit because of Potter.
Mudryk is a very good player. Like,
Jeez,
you can imagine him like ripping it up under a new manager.
Did you see the pace of the second half?
He's
when
very quick.
Like Mudryk's a seriously good player. Like that chance in the first half, like
when he came on against Arsenal, he did well.
His debut against Liverpool at Anfield, it was a 0-0 draw, and he was very impressive.
Yeah, he was very good.
But your point there, when he missed the sitter after 3 minutes, and you're putting it down to his lack of confidence, presumably under the leadership of Lampard. But it was the same with Potter. He was like that. He was very uncertain of himself.
Yeah, but that's the manager's job, though. Do you know what I mean? Good managers get the best out of their players. Like Lampard is clearly not a good manager at all. I would have done a better job in that time than Lampard. Like nobody could have done worse. Like nobody could. Well, you literally, lads, just do your jobs, and like play. You have a lot of potential here. You have a lot of quality. Score a couple of goals. Don't be terrible. They've been absolutely awful.
They looked like at the start of the second half, United had a load of chances to make it 3-0 early on. Like Bruno Fernandes hit the woodwork, and it really looked like they gave up Chelsea at that point. They kind of came back into it at the end. Like João Felix scored a lovely goal, like an individual goal, and like a player that Lampard's pretty much completely cast aside. He looks a step above everyone else, but you've seen so little of him. And like a point was made in commentary, I think it was Gary Neville said it, just like like they have a million players and he's one of the players that they definitely won't have next season because they don't have an option on him unless they go back to Atletico and say, okay, we'll actually try and buy him, and you'd almost be building the team around him.
Yeah, he's one of the players they need. Because when you look at the bench that they had that last night, like there's so much talent in the squad, but I don't know how Lampard can manage. I'd say he's
it doesn't matter now. He's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He's out the gap. Casemiro, I thought, was pulling the strings quite
player of the match.
last night.
He was very decent. Marcus Rashford, 30 goals this season.
Someone's commented, Fergus Keogh, Mo Salah 30 goals 15 assists equals per season. Marcus Rashford 30 goals 11 assists equals great
I don't
season.
think we said Salah had a poor season.
No, he's not at the level he was.
And
last
Rashford's season has certainly tapered downwards a little bit towards the second half of the season. But
we came out with a bang. Like it's a bit like Arsenal. It was like people are criticising Arsenal for finishing second, but they were so good for so long.
I have to pick up on that. I've been very frustrated with that kind of discussion around Arsenal.
You brought this up. Go on.
Yeah, like this idea. So the now deferred fire pit until next week, we were going to talk about bottling and what is the definition of bottling. And something that's really annoyed me is the notion that Arsenal bottled this season. They didn't at all. Like, you have to look at this season as an anomaly, like an aberration. I know John Hartson was saying that, you know, it's not a 30-game season, it's a 38-game season, and Arsenal are going to have to buckle up. And it wasn't a 38-game season. You had the deferred matches because of Queen Elizabeth's death. That compounded a lot of fixtures towards the end of the year. There was also a shortened pre-season. The season started at the start of August, and we had the small matter of a bloody World Cup mid-season. Like, this has been a crazy season.
But Manchester City had to deal with all that too.
Yeah, but we've all talked about how big Manchester City squad is and how they can pretty much change everybody except the goalkeeper and still beat everybody within the league, whereas everybody else has to contend with the same squad depth issues. They all look wrecked. All the teams look absolutely out on their feet at this stage, and that's why I feel like things have kind of petered out before the final day, is that everyone is really tired. They just want the season to end. Figuratively and spiritually, they're all on the beach. And we've talked about this before. Like, it's been a topic that's come up time and time again over the last couple of years, and strangely this year of all years has been the year it hasn't been touched on, is that there's so many games for players, so many right now. There's so much football to play. You had a World Cup midway through, you throw that on top. It wasn't a normal season, and yet everybody's talking about, well, Arsenal kind of threw that away, didn't they?
I think that's pretty much bang on. Like, I would agree with a lot of that, but you have to say West Ham away and Southampton at home.
Yeah,
they did throw those away. Yeah. They did throw those games away.
Sure, yeah.
3-1 down against Southampton and got 2 goals back.
But in West Ham, Bukayo Saka missed the penalty, right?
And the Liverpool game,
and then West Ham went down and scored. Yeah, Liverpool, look, at Anfield is a decent point. overall.
the nature of it.
But the nature of it, totally.
They've had a phenomenal season. Like,
brilliant season.
81 points from 37, lost 6 games, like taking on a team that's really, has been able to do whatever it wants in terms of getting whatever players it wants, and is, the best Premier League team ever, probably. And they're a clear second. Like, this issue of bottling, I'd agree with Cameron. I think it's complete nonsense. Like, and players probably are getting very, very tired as well.
Like, you see, like, someone as cut and thrust and swashbuckling as Brighton, they've looked wrecked. And they've had to pick their games. Like, in a normal year,
players is absolutely absurd. Like, it's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, completely. And this idea of, the 5-1 against Everton was a really good win for Everton. No, it was Brighton looking out on their feet. Like, let's be real about that. And
but are we giving a team a pass every time they lose because they're tired if we like them, whereas the Frank Lampard's Chelsea lose is because of him?
No, because Frank Lampard, as we've discussed, has probably as close to a Manchester City type squad as anyone could have in terms of the quality that's already on the bench. They're just really poorly managed. But I don't think there's any other team really that has that level of depth that City have across the board. It's impossible to keep up with that.
Emma Carroll making the point. Everyone said Liverpool bottled the league too when they got 97 points and lost on the final day by a point. City just go on crazy runs. Yeah, I agree. I think the word bottled is thrown around too often, but it's probably a case of Arsenal bottled a little period of those few games. They didn't bottle the season.
They were 11 points clear in January.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like it was Kevin Keegan's Newcastle in 1996.
It wasn't though.
Well, you could look at it that way if you want to be real tough about it. I think the problem is like the West Ham and Southampton games. I suppose it goes to like the short termism in football punditry, and we're all guilty of it. But also it's because of Johnny said this all the time. It's like players have to play every 3 days. It's an insane schedule, and as a result, we're all reacting to game by game. But if they had drawn with Southampton and the West Ham game, if they happened, say, one in September and another in December, no one would talk about them at all. And it would be the same impact on the points.
If Arsenal had won either of the games against Man City, they're level, right? If they'd won either, and in both games they were comfortably inferior. Like they were so inferior. So like that's the bottom line.
Better team won the title.
Finishing second in the league is a massive achievement.
Absolutely,
totally. And the West Ham and Southampton games were inconsistent performances, if anything. Like there were periods of that game against West Ham where Arsenal were just irresistible, and that's the problem with the pressure and the amount of games you're playing, is that it doesn't necessarily manifest itself in your energy levels. Sometimes it's your sharpness, and I think some of the goals that Arsenal conceded in those 2 games were down to a lack of focus. Like there were goals that teams wouldn't concede if they were like completely in the zone. Do you know?
People have their thoughts and comments on this one as well. Bottled is a bit of a strong word, isn't it? I also had a discussion with a couple of my housemates last night about and it's a hypothetical. Say Manchester United win the FA Cup final, which is a massive if, against Man City. So say United finish top 4, which they will, win the League Cup, which they have, and win the FA Cup. So it's 2 trophies in the top 4. Is that a better season than Arsenal, who have no trophies but were involved in a title race, so their fans got to enjoy the whole season, enjoy the I guess excitement of being in a title battle, albeit they don't have a trophy to show for it? But which season do you prefer?
I think if you look back in 5 years' time, both, you'd probably go Arsenal, because they remember how they overachieved for 3/4 of the season. I think traditionally fans would prefer the trophies, like they'd love to win a trophy, but nowadays, like, the importance of the Champions League almost overrides every trophy bar the Premier League title. So it's more important for a club like Newcastle, you could argue, have nearly had as good a season as Manchester United, despite losing the League Cup final to them and not getting into the FA Cup, because they, for the first time in 20 years, are back in the big time in the Champions League, which will enormously help their appeal to players this summer, that you'll play Champions League football.
Yeah, you also have to remember, like, United season as a whole. I think, when we get to the revisionism, and it's very fresh, we haven't even got to the final day yet, but the crushing blow of those games against Brighton and Brentford at the start of the year, like that is a part of the season.
Absolutely.
And that would have affected it.
Like half time in that Brentford game, a game and a half into the season, they were 6-1 down on aggregate. They lost 2-1 at home to Brighton, which is their only home defeat of the season as it transpired. And in that game against Brentford, and you're like, Jesus, there was a rumour that Eric Ten Hag was going to walk away at the end of it. Was like, this is a complete disaster that I've taken over. And the way he's turned around, you have to say it's a successful season. Bruno Fernandes was asked on the pitch. I've noted Sky Sports have done these on the pitch immediately after the game interviews now with players where they walk around with the BT Sport do the same thing. And Patrick Davison was saying to Bruno, like, decent season, and Bruno said that's exactly what it is. It's decent. Which I think is fair.
We're not getting carried away. We will touch more on Manchester United season and the game last night with Samuel Luckhurst of the Manchester Evening News around 8:10. this morning we'll have Seamus Hickey. Before that, talking Limerick hurling, and of course previewing the weekend's hurling generally speaking. 8:30, the great David Brady will join us. We'll take a bit of a look back at Mayo last weekend, we haven't touched on yet with him, and look ahead to this weekend's All-Ireland Group Championship, whatever we're calling it, matches. Shabana Hearn at around 8:50, looking ahead to the final day of the WSL season, which is I guess building up to be a bit of a classic. Chelsea have the title in their hands ahead of their game against Reading tomorrow, but we'll touch on all that with Shaban, and of course some stories involving the Irish players as well, and Alan Quinlan on the line from South Africa at 9:10, previewing the URC final between
Munster and Stormers. We should also point out, Jane, before we move on, Johnny's wearing shorts today, and I think it's the first studio appearance of someone wearing shorts this year.
Big shout. I've been thinking about risking it different mornings, and I was like, because yesterday afternoon you're thinking this is someday here.
It was 11 degrees getting up this morning, and it's weird as the changing of the seasons as well. Like I had my alarm set the other morning for like 5:25, and when you've set that early, or at least with me anyway, you just keep waking up thinking either A, you've slept in, or B, your alarm is just about to go off. But it was bright for ages before I woke up. I was like, this is mad, and it makes it so much easier to get up in the morning.
You have a good set of cycling pins on you, a good set of legs, you see, Johnny. That's why you want to get them out, is that it?
Are you praising my legs?
Well, there you go. You've got a fella for you praised in the comments this morning, Johnny, who said, so someone said the Young Bucks panel, speaking about the four of us.
There we go. I'm 40, like.
And then
I'll take
40.
Hugh replied, sure, Johnny's in his mid-40s. And then Kevin replied, he looks younger though.
Well, I'm not in my mid-40s, like.
No. But someone said you look younger.
That's good. You should be happy with that. I have like one big contract left in football age.
Oh, really?
What age are you?
At best. It depends how good I was as a player.
Depends what position
I might get
you're a goalkeeper.
What?
You're a goalkeeper, so that's no, I'm not. Keepers at your age we get a contract.
I might get an MLS deal, maybe.
Right.
Depending on the success of my career to that point.
Conor O'Donnell has commented, by the way, hey lads, could you give a shout out to the Irish foot golf team and their captain Ronan Lina flying out to the World Cup in Orlando this morning. Best of luck, lads. That is unbelievable. Imagine flying to Orlando today to play in the foot golf World Cup.
Brilliant.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Have you ever played foot golf?
No.
Yeah, it's class. It's good, isn't it?
Go crack.
It's basically just a goal kick to start with.
Yeah, essentially.
And then, but then it's when you get towards the green,
it's tactical. I love a bit of foot golf. Yeah. We should do an off the ball day out or something.
Don't need to swear.
We should do so much.
That's very good.
There you go.
That was very, very good. We should touch on a couple of other bits and bobs that are happening as well across the sporting sphere. As they say, the Irish women's team, they had a lot of players making headlines yesterday for various reasons, different exits from different clubs. So Megan Connolly and Megan Walsh leaving Brighton. Rusha Littlejohn announced she's leaving Aston Villa. Megan Campbell is leaving Liverpool. It's all go.
No more long throws.
No more long throws. Certainly from Liverpool's perspective. We'll hopefully see them in the World Cup though.
There is an amusing Twitter kind of interchange this morning as well, or from last night. In the call, who obviously we know, he tweets Paul Galvin, like this is reacting, but Paul Galvin is reacting to a clip of Paul Scholes' passes, and Paul Galvin just says, Scholes amazing player, but I could name a dozen Gaelic footballers who could pass like that given the same time and space, right? To which in the caller replies, yeah, totally the same. And then Dan McDonald, who always gets really worked up about this idea that GA players are basically just soccer players that decided to play football. He said it's either an elite case of GA exceptionalism or a spectacularly effective wind-up. And Paul has been on the show. Which one was it, Paul?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Do you get what Dan has this point?
Yeah.
Like, remember we used to have like
football, as in soccer, is a much more skillful sport than a lot of people who don't play it realise. You know, if you actually played a 90-minute game of soccer, you'd realise this is skillful. So maybe there's people who are into Gaelic football and don't particularly play or pay heed to soccer who don't realise or understand that. I'm a fan of both.
I think though, I feel that a lot of it is coaching. Like a lot of really good Gaelic footballers are very good at soccer growing up, and they just kind of gravitate towards one because of family ties, or
I think
even the structures.
It's such a tedious debate. It's so my dad could beat you up your dad. I really hate those sport versus sport.
Cameron's not having anything this morning.
I don't want to compare them. We should mention the injury for Aoife Mannion as well. Small tweak to her knee. Anytime there's an Irish women's player now that is down as injury, you get a little bit concerned because the World Cup is only a couple of months away. July 20th I think is our first game. There's tickets on sale, by the way, this morning. So Ireland are going to host Zambia on Thursday, June 22nd. So that is less than a month away. Before taking on France, that's Thursday, July 6th. Two key games as part of the World Cup preparation. Tickets on sale 10 o'clock this morning, so just over 2 hours to go.
We'll see Hervé Bernard, will he wear his white shirt
Oh yeah.
on the France technical
Oh
area?
yes, that'll be a sight to behold.
And another friendly announced as well.
Oh yeah, Colombia. That's going to be behind closed doors in Brisbane, July 14th. So 6 days before the Vera Pauw's team get their World Cup underway. So that'll be I presume the last game before.
Yeah, you'd think so, yeah.
World Cup. 6 days is probably just enough time, you'd imagine. As I said, we'll talk WSL with Shabana Hearn later on the show this morning. You want to talk French Open?
Well, I just wanted to mention, I got this online yesterday. I didn't realise it had been 8 years since Bill O'Hurley, he passed away. The great Bill O'Hurley.
Okie doke.
Ah, what a man.
What are your memories of Bill O'Hurley?
Well, he made my childhood
Cork man.
and adolescence.
Is he Cork man?
Oh yeah. I mean, through and through. And maintained the accent despite spending the majority of his life living up here. And was initially on the news side of things at RT. And then they had something happen in the sport department where he had to fill in, and the rest is history. But like, I just every so often look back on the Billo, Gilesy, Dunphy, Brady days on RT, and just the way Johnny is accidentally doing a very good kind of impression of the way that Bill would just kind of sit back, have the pen, and be like,
watch it all unfold.
What do you mean by that, Eamon?
Yeah.
And then,
simple but effective.
It was incredible. He always acted like he pretended like he was completely clueless and being like, "Tell me about this football thing," but very much knew his stuff.
But
just let them
Your fellow
get on with
countryman
it.
Don Logue's kind of clash with Joanne Cantwell as well reminds us of the old RT era where like it was a lot of personalities, because under Declan McBennett, whether it's anything to do with Declan or not, and it probably is, RT has moved on from the
totally
personality days.
It's different. It's a different world now.
It is, and like you can debate the ins and outs of it, but it's from another era.
It was a specific type of incredulity with Bill. I remember there was the Dunphy clip where he calls someone a spoofer, and Darragh Maloney calls him up. And he says, bullshitter. But Maloney can't carry off that sort of what? Eamon Dunphy swearing on air, that kind of what's going on here? It's very Simon Amstel on Nevermind the Buzzcocks, seeing Donny smoking.
You were at the Souness event though. Remember the Off the Ball Souness event?
Yes.
With Wes Brown and John O'Shea recently as well. The Just Eat one. That was they did play a clip at one stage up on the big screen of the good old days with Billo and Eamon and Souness in the middle of them as well. It was just an absolute. I'd forgotten how good those days were.
Do you remember when Dunphy was like Rod Little? He's the one, and then Bill goes, "Eamon, you can't say that." But then it's like, but keep on going anyway.
I know, Eamon.
That was the best thing when he got really Cork, when he's you can't be saying that. Come on. And then there's a little twinkle in his eye. And there was one time, it was actually latter stages when Bill was questioning the support in an Ireland game in the real down days. I think it was the end of Trap, and Liam Brady went mad, took a huge exception to Bill being like, well, the fans aren't showing up. And then Brady was like, it's a tough time, the economy's really struggling, I can't believe you'd say something like that about the fans. And then Bill was like, I'm just saying. And it wasn't a full stadium.
Just winding you up.
But they had an amazing respect for him, because they were like proper football men, these three lads, and Bill wasn't, but they still had a huge amount of respect for the way he would just drop a bomb, sit back and enjoy. I loved him.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Loved him. But I can't 8 years. Jeez,
it's hard to believe he's 8 years gone as well, isn't it? Like,
amazing. He's my favourite.
Your favourite broadcaster?
One of many, but up there, right up there. Yeah.
Your favourite Cork broadcaster?
There's
a long list there as well.
Big list. Yeah. And the French Open starts Sunday coming, 2 days time.
There's no Nadal, Colin.
No Nadal, first time ever he's not playing the French Open since he made his debut 2005. The big probably takeaway from the men's side is that Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz, the two favourites, they're set to play each other in the semi-final. So we're going to be robbed of that final, unfortunately, because Djokovic is third seed, hasn't played an awful lot of tennis this year.
Swiatek, Gauff.
Exactly. So the quarter-final projection will be last year's final. Iga Swiatek against Coco Gauff. So Swiatek's world number 1 defending champion. She's won the French Open twice already. And Aryna Sabalenka finally won her first Grand Slam, the Australian Open. It started this year. She's probably her biggest challenger, and they're on the opposite side, so they could play each other in the final. Swiatek, Sabalenka looks like it's going to be the women's final. This is if everything goes according to plan, of course. And the men's final, it's all about the semi-final. Djokovic, Alcaraz. I think Djokovic will win.
Right.
And then he'll play probably Daniel Medvedev based on form. But Casper Ruud got into last year's final against Nadal. He could also get to the final. I'd say Medvedev Djokovic final.
Where does the French Open rank in your list of 4 Grand Slams in terms of enjoyment?
Fourth.
Oh dear.
Per French Open.
I don't like the aesthetics
Of the clay.
of the burnt orange and the yellow ball, and if it's sunny, you just have the hope of seeing it.
Very different coloured.
I would
tennis
prefer if they could do something about that. It would be great.
Exchange of slips.
I like Wimbledon the most, and then the US, and then the Australian,
Strike me as a
and then
Wimbledon
French.
man, alright.
It's the one Grand Slam where they announced the scores in a different language. Surely that's brilliant.
Roland Garros.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Gans-
so that's in the plus column.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
great.
Right in the top four.
I really think women's tennis needs to the top 4. French Open just qualifying for.
Do you know who
Champions
Roland
League.
Garros was? I remember I did a history project on him in school.
No, go on.
He was a French aviator in World War One, a World War One ace. I'm fairly sure.
Did he like
Fighter
tennis?
pilot died in 1918 in the war. But if you have time this morning, read up on Roland Garros. Fascinating life.
Did he like tennis, Shane?
I don't know what the link with tennis is.
Yeah.
I did a research project on him. So
What was
clearly I
World War
remember.
One about? Did you figure out?
On that note,
What was the most
go
pointless,
on.
like,
Start
What's
talking
behind
about
it? Go on.
Go on. There's the biggest rabbit hole we've ever gone down.
Genuinely, what was it about?
Let's
What was it all
get
about?
out of here.
Yeah. Colm and Cameron, thanks for popping in.